What's up, groovy sattvas? I am on fire today, baby. Just like this fire behind me, except my fire is real. Why am I on fire? I just got sent a video by a friend of mine. It's from some, I don't know, man, some spiritual influencer. And this video got me thinking about influencer culture at large, which leads into like political talking heads culture, which leads into social media, which leads into ChatGPT. A lot of leads here going into a lot of places, all right? But this video really captured me. Why? It's a 30-second video. It's a woman, and she's very cool looking and smart and sharp, and she's got her hair pulled back because she's about to do business, and she's got a marker and a whiteboard behind her, and she goes, and she uncaps this marker like she has withdrawn her wakizashi short sword from its scabbard, and she is going to pierce our illusions, right? She spins around somewhere in between, like a TED Talk type person and a school teacher and an older sister and a spiritual guru, right? And she starts going at it with this underlining things, doing a 3-point listicle, and giving us Buddhism, which is her pitch point, in 30 seconds. And I'm listening, and the editing is good, and there's cool, tinkly, hipster music in the background, and I'm absorbing what she's saying, and I was open to it, and I was like, oh, that's right, oh, that's right. And then she starts talking about like how everything is vibrations, and that the heart and the mind give off purple energy. It's basically, she's mixing in, I think, genuine, or at least let's say traditional Buddhism with word salad. Quick story about cocaine towards my greater point about social media, internet culture et al. Don't judge. Back when I was living in Hollywood, I did cocaine twice in my life. Okay, twice in my life. And the first time I did it, I thought I had to have experiences. I thought I was a naive Wisconsin boy who needed to get out into Hollywood and do the crazy things. So I had this neighbor. This neighbor was on disability. This neighbor had a mullet, and this was a pre-ironic mullet. This was a 100% dyed-in-the-wool, genuine American mullet. And he would wear these tank tops and show off his hairy chest, and kind of did talk like this. And one day he said, come over to my house, I want to give you some swordfish. So I went over to his house and he gave me some swordfish. And he said, you know what else I want to give you? Some cocaine. So I said, all right, I'll try it. And he laid it out on the table, and I will never forget this. I did this snort of cocaine, all right? And I instantly, just about, it hit my bloodstream, and I thought two things. You want to know what those two things were? The first thing I thought was, this is the best feeling I've ever had in my entire life. Said thought was immediately followed by another. Where can I get more? Okay? I just wrote this down so that I don't get it wrong. We are being rewired away from curiosity, where we are inspired to pay attention toward craving short bursts of captivating content that hit our bloodstream like a line of cocaine. Oh my God, that was amazing. Where can I get another? All of which is to say that, in my opinion, so much of what we take for granted now as just being indigenous to our information ecosystem is as toxic and anathema or opposed to the spiritual life as sugar and fat or even cocaine is opposed and anathema to physical health. The internet is cocaine for the soul. And I don't mean that in a good way. Okay, so, but what do we do with that? Because complaining about the internet, on the internet, is not productive, it's not interesting, and it's kind of hypocritical. So here is where Buddhism, and I think specifically Zen Buddhism, comes in handy. I was listening recently to this audiobook that was the collected teachings of Huang Po. So Huang Po, I think he died in 850 AD. He was the teacher of Lin Chi, or Rinzai, who's the founder of my lineage. So he's an important person in the style of Buddhism that I practice. And Huang Po has this amazing turn of phrase about how Buddhism cannot be grasped through conceptual understanding. It has to be awakened through your own intuition. He says you have to have an intuitive realization of your own Buddha nature or true face. And as I heard this in the audiobook, I was reminded of something my teacher used to say when we were doing koan practice together. When I came in and I presented an answer like a Broadway actor who'd memorized a line of David Mamet dialogue and delivered it crisply, precisely, and on time, he would just laugh and he would say, He would say, intuition important. Okay, so what is intuition? Probably it's better not to speak of it, because to speak of it is not to behave intuitively towards the question. What is intuition? It's a bit like that definition that judge gave, I think it was in the D.H. Lawrence trial regarding pornography. He said, you know it when you see it. That's kind of intuition. You know it when you know it. It's a kind of silent knowing or understanding that undergirds, I think, our conscious thoughts, our conscious conclusions, our rationalization, and even language. It's pre-languaged knowing of a certain kind. An example of this is a retreat wherein you cannot talk to anyone. So you come to a Zen Buddhist Daisashin, you get thrown into the schedule, you're a student, you don't open your mouth, and yet there are all these people all around you. And as you go through the day with them, moving together, eating together, sitting together, you get a solid sense for who a person is. And I have had this be the case such that at the end of the retreat, a person, and I'm thinking of a woman in particular that I sat across from during a retreat, I knew exactly who she was without ever saying a word to her. And then when she came up and introduced herself to me at the end of the retreat, she started acting out in the exact manner that my intuition had told me she would before I had ever met her. So, we meet people in the real world at a dinner party and we talk, and we think we know them, but maybe it isn't their words that let us know who they were, but something we picked up through this vast brain behind our brain, this subconscious understanding that receives the world, processes it, or maybe even already knows it. And that's what it feels like to me with intuition. It's already knowing something before I have to consciously chew on the problem and think it, and usually overthink it. Okay, so all of the Zen masters I have ever met, like legitimate Rinzai Zen Roshis, had this intuition, okay? And also the Zen teachers, or the Oshos, or the priests that I've had, that I connected with and respected and would listen to, they had this intuition as well. And it's kind of funny. This is one thing that I experienced with these people. Their intuition is sometimes completely and totally wrong, okay? So that can be a little bit disorienting, and it took me a while to get used to that with regards to, say, my mentor. So this was somebody I was friends with, as well as initially learning about Zen from. And so he knew me personally, and he would suddenly come out with these statements that would just stop me in my tracks, halt my overthinking mind, because of their unmitigated truth. And then other times, he would come out with as much confidence with a statement that was completely and totally wrong, right? And as our relationship developed, I was able to just tell him, no, dude, that's not wrong, or that's not right at all, and have some faith in myself, my intuition in what's right for me and what's not right for me. But what's interesting is, even if these guys or women, even if these Zen masters are totally wrong with their intuition, they still trust it. And that's, you might want to just hold that for a second in your own intuition. I'm not exactly sure what to do with that, but I really liked it because I like it because when I'm around these people, I know that something true is going to come out of them. And it's true from them. And it may not be true for me, but it's just coming out of them. And there's a playfulness in this expression of their intuition, a playfulness to it, and a lack of attachment to things like right or wrong or accurate or inaccurate. Intuition operates on a different level, not per rational, dualistic, yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong type statements or logic. So I just wrote this all out now. I'm going to deliver it to you without any preamble. See if I can get this right. So the internet does not operate on the level of intuition. It operates on the level of instinct or impulse. So if intuition is an already knowing, perhaps it arises from the fact of unity, where we are not fundamentally separate from the world around us or from the thing in the world that we are having an intuition about, right? But in that sense, intuition is spiritual health manifesting, you could say. On the other hand, impulse and instinct are different than intuition. Instinct arises from the needs of the body or of the person. And impulse is trying to meet those needs without thinking about it. You just have an impulse to meet an instinct, right? So impulse and instincts come from the relative reality of the individual person, whereas intuition arguably comes from the other place, one of unity. To wit, I am reminded of that quote from Rumi, the Sufi poet. He said, "Beyond good and evil, there is a field. I'll meet you there." It's like the field of intuition, the field of oneness, where my mind merges into your mind, where your body language merges into my impression of you and my impression of you merges into your body language. Intuition, important. So when I was watching that clip of that Buddhist influencer today on Instagram, my intuition went off. My spidey sense was tingling. And what I sensed was that she was trying to take this practice, this lineage, this wisdom tradition, and crush it down into the shape of Instagram. Okay, which is what influencers do, which is what internet people do, which is oftentimes, unfortunately, what I do on this channel when I'm failing, which is often, right? We don't use the medium to deliver something that might help you intuitively along the path to realizing your own Buddha nature or true face, as Huang Po put it. Instead, we kind of do a song and dance on the internet that maybe looks and sounds and smells like Buddhism or Zen, but actually isn't ultimately very helpful. And that was what happened intuitively to me today when I was listening to this perfectly fine person, this young woman who was trying to offer something on Buddhism on the internet. I'm assuming the best intentions here. But what I imagined was my younger self, or I imagined one of my younger nieces who, like so like all of us, were trying to figure out how to live. That's it. We're trying to figure out how to live. And now we have this massive, massive cultural operation called the internet, you know? It's getting hot in here. You know, and it's with us morning, noon, and night. I mean, David Foster Wallace in the 1980s, I think it was either the 80s or the early 90s, he said, I will encounter 500,000 discrete bits of information today, about 20 of which have relevance to my life. Okay, and that was like in the late 80s, early 90s. Imagine how many discrete bits of information we are encountering now in our daily lives. Okay, the internet is this force upon our minds and our hearts and our souls and our spirits. And I imagine like one of my nieces or nephews watching a video on Instagram where it says, you know, 30 seconds, this is Buddhism. And there's a combination of stuff that kind of has the ring of truth and then pure word salad. And I imagine them coming out the other side of that video thinking that this person is some kind of an expert, and then thinking if they could just parse what this person just said, it will become one of the useful bits of information. But then there's the next thing in their Instagram feed, and suddenly they're on Kim Kardashian's website buying her emojis or her lip gloss or nail polish. You know what I'm saying? For me, at this point in time in like human history, the apotheosis of internet culture or the internet as a tool is ChatGPT. You can ask that mother anything and it will give you an answer. You can bring it an intellectual task, like write me a cover letter for this job application, and it will deliver you a document that is like 89% of the way there in the time it will take you to flipping sneeze. Okay, but that kind of knowledge, that sort of infinite factual grab bag, that stochastic parrot that is ChatGPT, doesn't matter when it comes to what Huang Po calls an intuitive grasping of your Buddha nature, okay? Which is just intuition, the realm of intuition. I just came back from a conversation with my girlfriend, which was very, very interesting, that I want to share with you. I was telling her about this video, and I was telling her that I didn't know how to end it. And she said, tell my story. So here's her story. I think it was about two and a half years ago. She was working a really stressful job, and she missed a few nights of sleep. And this triggered an experience that she thought was a grand mal seizure or a major seizure because she has epilepsy. As a result of this, she started to worry that she was going to have more seizures, and this triggered its own problem. Panic attacks, severe panic attacks at the thought because of her fear that she was going to have a seizure. So she was like out in the street one day, and she suddenly got this, what she called an intuition, that like something really bad was going to happen. And it felt like she got like weak on her knees, and it felt like the sidewalk beneath her feet was unstable. It's a bit like if you've ever been through an earthquake, when suddenly it feels like there's water under your feet. When the earthquake strikes, you're like, what? Whoa! She said that's what it was like, and it felt like all the buildings were like caving in and closing in and closing in on her. And the only way she could process this was, oh my gosh, my intuition is telling me something really bad is going to happen. It was scary, and she called me, and I had to go down there, and we walked back together, had a drink of water, calmed her down, and she decided that she would speak with a cognitive behavioral therapist about these panic attacks. So the cognitive behavioral therapist said something really interesting. She said, what you experienced was not intuition. She said it was like your amygdala tricking itself, tricking you into thinking there's like a saber-toothed tiger near and you have to run as fast as possible. She said it was not intuition. She said, you want to know how you know intuition? She said, it's silent. It's very silent and it's very calm. That's intuition. And after my girlfriend told me this tonight, it reminded me of this story. I thought about how the internet, in many ways, God bless it, it's delivering me to you and you to me, but in many ways, the way that we as a society have incentivized activity on the internet due to the structure of these companies and corporations and attention-catching schemes, etc., the way we structured this world that we live on online, it's like one great, big, enormous panic attack. Somebody's always trying to convince us that they got the solution to the problem on the internet. But in order to do that, they gotta convince us of the problem. So whether it's a political problem or a health problem, a problem with Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, or a problem with Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, the internet is a amygdala triggering wasteland / carnival where the walls are always caving in on us, the buildings are always getting closer and closer and closer, right? And the ground beneath our feet is always turning to water like we're in the middle, right in the middle of an earthquake. But the deepest, most ancient, most lasting Zen Buddhist teachings, like the collected works or sermons of Huang Po, offer these glimpses or these hints of this deep, true silence or connection. Connection is how I think of it. Connection where, you know, your being and my being and your experience and my experience and our experience are not so rigidly separated. There's one big field beyond good and evil and right and wrong and me and you and this and that. The Rumi's field. It's invisible, but it's there, here, now. I hope that made some sense today. I took too long to make this video. You can't see it, but it was very bright in here when I started this video. It is now very dark because it's taken me a very long time. And as is always the case when I take a long time to do a video, it annoys people. And I apologize for that. But if it didn't annoy you too much, you can support this channel here at patreon.com/showsonjackhalbert. There's also the opportunity to support this channel through a PayPal link, which is in the video description below. I'm very grateful for all the support that people are giving me. I put out a call for help to buy a new phone and some new microphone. Like I just lost another 20 minutes of footage because my microphone wasn't working. And people really helped me. So I'm gonna go out now, I'm gonna buy a new phone to shoot these videos. And maybe you can give me a little bit of support and I'll buy a new microphone too so I don't keep losing all my yakking. Although I think there's maybe a lesson in there to stop yakking. So I'm out, see ya.